Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be shining a light on what it means to be an empath. Are you an empath? It certainly will help you if you do know that you're an empath or not. But before I start shining a light on what it means to be an empath, I just want to emphasize that being an empath in no ways makes you more special or more virtuous than anyone else. You know, nowadays there's a lot of fake virtue going around and virtue signaling, you know, that for example, you know, if you're going to go help the poor and you get people, they take selfies of themselves handing out food and then they put it on Facebook and social media. Virtue signaling. Virtue, just as a side note, is not self-conscious. Virtue, it's of itself, it's spontaneous. It just does whatever it does because that's what its nature is. It doesn't look for recognition or payment. In any case, being an empath can be, I'd say, a blessing or a curse. You know, a blessing when you realize you are an empath and can handle everything that goes with it. You know, using your gift to understand yourself better, understand and help out your fellow human being. It takes time though. If you first just find out you're an empath, it can be pretty confusing. It takes time. On the flip side, it can be a curse because if you don't realize you're an empath, you won't understand a lot about yourself, your emotional state of being, and that can be quite detrimental to yourself and others. And just a quick statement, I just want you to know that this channel is not meant to give anyone the impression that I'm an expert on everything that I like to discuss. I've got a very inquiring mind, I've got a broad range of interests, and but I'm not a psychologist or a psychoanalyst. I'm just a guy with a lot of questions. I always encourage my photography students to ask questions, and not just of me as the lecturer, but in life in general. I want my students to think. I encourage my students to think. I encourage everybody to think. My children, my grandchild, my grandson. I encourage them to think for themselves. Ask questions. I will ask questions. I tell my students till the day I die I'll be asking questions. I'm student and teacher at the same time. You know, I'll ask questions of the state, I'll ask questions of religion, I'll ask questions of science, I'll ask questions of the medical profession, the educational system, the media. I will ask questions on whatever I want to question. Why? Well, I've got an inquiring mind, like I said. I'm very, very inquisitive, and besides, I'm an adult, a law-abiding citizen. I'm allowed to ask questions, well, while it's still legal. Asking questions does not mean you're dumb. It actually means you have an inquisitive, inquiring mind, which can lead you to becoming a critical thinker. And oh my word, how the world needs critical thinkers at the moment. So having said that, that I'm not an expert, I will tell you that I've learned quite a bit in my lifetime, and mostly from the University of Life, and nearly all my lessons are experiential. I've been through this stuff myself. Often I have found out things the hard way. I'm quite a slow learner, in fact. You know, when it comes to photography, I've told my students when I studied at Natal Technikon many years ago, I was a very slow learner. It took me a while to grasp certain concepts, and but they say usually slow learners make the best teachers. I don't know how true that is. I heard it somewhere. I heard that. But anyway, so you know, I've learned a lot. There's some things I know that I know, and others I don't. I'm a processor as well, so I'll process stuff, and sometimes that might take me, I don't know how long, sometimes even a week or longer, to process information, to process data. And I do that through my intuition, through research, study, combination of personal experience, personal revelation, and research and study. And I like to think that in most cases I can back up my points of view in that way. And I can qualify my statements and articulate my point of view. So, having said all of that, let's get down to it and let's find out the traits of an empath. I've got like about, well, a ton, maybe 30 traits of an empath. Hang around, we're going to discuss it right now. So here we go, traits of an empath, and I got this information by Diane Catherine, and I'm going to put the website link in the below. Have a look below for the website link. Number 1, always looking for the answers and knowledge. To have unanswered questions can be frustrating for an empath, and they will endeavor to find an explanation. Anything of a supernatural nature is of interest to empaths, and they don't surprise or get shocked easily. Oh, that's very true. I think, well, in my case, that's for sure. Even at the revelation of what many others would consider unthinkable, Diane goes on to say here, for example, empaths would have known the world was round when others believed it was flat. That's quite an analogy to use, but okay. If they have a knowing, if empaths have a knowing about something, they will look for confirmation. The downside of this is information overload. You'll see empaths, they often suffer from fatigue because of information overload. I mean, I love research, and I research a lot of different topics, from photography, which I teach. I'm a professional photographer, and I teach photography, and you got to stay on top of your game. When you're teaching, you have to know the latest trends, etc. I keep on researching, photography, and I mean, I love it. Even after being a professional photographer for 30 years, I'm still learning. There's still more to learn. It's something you'll never stop learning until the day you die. And what's interesting to know is this: oftentimes, talking about always looking for the answers and knowledge, oftentimes I will have discovered something personally, and then later, a week or 2 weeks later, I get a book or something to confirm what I have found out on my own, which has been quite interesting. It's happened to me for a very, very long time. Empaths are drawn to healing, holistic therapies, and all things metaphysical. Although many empaths love to heal others, they can end up turning away from being healers, even though they have a natural ability for it, because they take on too much from the one they are trying to help, to assist, to heal, especially if the empath is unaware of their empathic gifting or type, personality type. They strive for the truth. This becomes more prevalent when an empath discovers his or her gift and birthright. Anything untruthful feels just plain wrong. Tick that. Always looking out for the underdog. Another tick. Anyone who's suffering in emotional pain or being bullied draws an empath's attention and compassion. I'd like to say that empaths are protectors. I've seen it in myself and other people that I know of empaths. They're not like to protect, they can't help themselves. They are compelled to protect. They will protect those they love. They will protect those that they feel need help or that are perhaps weaker than them. Their loved ones, children, women. Please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying women are not as the weaker sex always and so on. One has to be so politically correct nowadays. If you say women are the weaker sex nowadays, oh my word, you will be lambasted. So, okay, but you hear what I'm trying to say. Empaths are protectors. Have a look at the slide that I'm going to show you, called the dark empath. It's author unknown. I wouldn't say, I have a little bit of a, what's the word can I use? I suppose a little bit of trouble with the word the dark empath, because I suppose what they're trying to say, author unknown, is that the empath is digging into their dark side to produce anger and to protect those that they want to protect. Empaths cannot handle fake people or narcissists and the abusers and sociopaths and psychopaths. They will rise up and protect, those that they love. So I wouldn't say it's a dark empath, I'd say it's a light empath. But anyway, that could be semantics. Empaths are excellent listeners. An empath won't talk about themselves much unless it's to somebody they really trust. Trust is a big thing for an empath. Trust is a major thing for an empath. I'm like that, man. Where there's no trust, there's no peace. I've got very, very good friendships, but I can count them on one hand, or maybe with my other hand too. Very, very good friendships that I've had for 20 years, 30 years, and I trust my friends implicitly, and we know our friendship is based on trust. My children and even my 14-year-old grandson knows we trust each other. If there's no trust, there's no peace, there's no relationship. Trust is a big thing. Excellent listener. An empath won't talk about themselves much unless it's to somebody they really trust. They love to learn and know about others and genuinely care. Number 6, others will want to offload their problems on you, even strangers. An empath can become a dumping ground for everybody else's issues and problems, which if they're not careful can end up as their own. Very, very true. I've had instances where it happens all the time, where complete strangers start telling me stuff very, very quickly. Sometimes I really enjoy talking to strangers because I can have amazing conversations with them and they'll just open up to me completely. And it can be really rewarding, and I can share sometimes my experiences with them that'll help them. That's what empaths really love to do. It's not that you set out to do it, it's just that's how it happens. It's just a natural kind of outflow. But on the flip side, it can be a bit of a snare, I think, in personal relationships with the opposite sex. Well, for me, because what I found, this is going to sound quite funny to some of you, because my potential partner, often when I'm getting to know them, they feel so comfortable sharing with me that they overshare about their intimate lives and sex lives with their past boyfriend, and I'm going like, wow, I didn't need to hear all those intimate details about your past or your past sexual escapades, especially if I'm drawn to you and I really like you and I'm starting to get to know you, but you overshare with me certain details about your sexual intimacy with your past boyfriend or your sexual escapades in the past, then I'm going like, what? I mean, I didn't really need to know that, please, I'm an empath, highly sensitive with a vivid imagination. One of my previous girlfriends said this to me: ladies, please, be careful, be careful, men too, what you say to your potential partner. This is just something on the side. My one previous girlfriend said to me, I have a weakness for men that I will have to guard for the rest of my life. What am I going to do? What am I going to do with that? I was looking to her as like, wow, I'm really getting to like you and enjoy you. But now you're going to tell me that? That's like, what am I going to do with that? One of my previous girlfriends said to me that she just had sex with this one guy just for flag and country. And I really was really starting to fall in love with this woman. And really, what am I supposed to do with that? Ladies, guys, be careful. Don't overshare. Be careful. Anyway, number 7. Feeling others' emotions and taking them on as your own. This is a huge one for empaths. To some, they will feel emotions of those nearby, and with others, they will feel emotions from those of vast distance away, or both. You know, for me, it's yes, feeling others' emotions and taking them on as your own. That is quite tricky with an emotion, with an empath, because you can be in a room full of people with they're all on different emotional states, and you know, if you are with somebody and you're sharing space with somebody in a bad mood, I can feel that, pick up on it quite intensely. So I've either got to speak with them and find out why are you in a bad mood, or if they won't talk about it and they're still stomping around all over the place. Empaths pick up vibes. We're highly sensitive, not oversensitive. There's a big difference between being highly sensitive and oversensitive. Oversensitive means you can't take a joke, you know, you're very self-conscious, and you're a pain to be around. You tend to be very over-analytical as well. That's like oversensitive. But being highly sensitive is very different. Being highly sensitive to music or to beauty or nature means you become one with music and so on. So your senses are highly sensitive. Even your sense of hearing, taste, smell is pretty intense. So, you know, I'll generally try. I had somebody that was in my workspace for a while that was often in a bad mood, and I had to try and speak to them, and if they carried on insisting in being in a bad mood, I would have to resort to blocking techniques, either move out of the room, move out of their space, put music on, put headphones on, or like, but if they're right in your space, in your office or the place where you work, and you can't block that vibe, you have to either put on headphones or something, because pretty soon what happens is that bad mood of theirs, it lands up, you start taking it on, and you land up being in a bad mood because you can mirror it back. Empaths are like mirrors as well. Often they'll mirror back the emotions of others. And listen to this is very interesting, still point number 7. The more adept empath, adept just means skillful. So the more skillful, experienced or adept empath will know if somebody is having bad thoughts about them, even from a great distance. Now that is very, very true. I have felt those type of things before. I can testify to that. It's very, very, it's interesting. Number 8, you know when somebody is not being honest. This is so very, very true. You know, you can read people like a book, basically, like an open book. If a friend or a loved one is telling you lies, you know it. Although many empaths try not to focus on this, because knowing a loved one is lying to you, of course, can be painful. So that's why, remember I said it can be a bit of a blessing or a curse. I don't believe it's a curse. I mean, you know, a curse like that. I believe it's a gift, but one has to know how your loved ones and how human beings operate. You know, human beings, a lot of them, they do unfortunately lie, and they fake, or they don't tell the truth, or they try and manipulate you to try and get something out of you, even your loved ones. And that can be quite hurtful, because you know, you will see right through it. You can see, you know, an empath or somebody with a gift of discernment can see a charlatan or a saint from a mile away. Or if somebody is saying one thing but feeling or thinking another, the empath will know that. Number 9, a big one. Empaths have an intolerance to narcissism. Although empaths are kind and often very tolerant of others, empaths do not like to be around overly egotistical. I've added fake people. I cannot be around fake people or narcissists or egotistical people. I just can't be around them. Who put themselves first and refuse to consider another's feelings or points of view other than their own. I saw this once going through on social media, one of my feeds. An adept empath is a narcissist's worst nightmare. If you've got an issue with a narcissist, make friends with an empath. The empath will put that narcissist in their place quick time, double quick time. Empaths have the gift of discernment, I've already said that, and can spot a saint or a charlatan from a mile away. Manipulators and narcissists don't like me because we can be a mirror. I've said that before. I see right through them and they know it. So I put boundaries up to prevent their manipulation, and they can't handle those boundaries. So they know immediately that I'm onto them very, very quickly. Number 10, fatigue. Empaths often get drained of energy, either from energy vampires. It's very, very true. You do get energy vampires. They steal your energy. They are those type of people. There are those type of people that are around, and they will steal your energy if you are not careful. You can also feel drained in empath by just taking on too much from others. And Diane says, not even sleep will cure that. That starts becoming soul exhaustion, real serious fatigue, burnout, soul exhaustion, etc. Number 11, empaths need solitude. That is so true. An empath will go stir crazy if they don't get quiet time. I need my quiet time. Every morning I start off my day with an hour of quiet time where I meditate and ponder the ancient scriptures, or pray, meditate, just spend time even quietly just looking out the window and into my garden and just watching the birds and the bees. So I start off my day with at least an hour. I usually get my grandson to school by 10 to 7, get home by 7, from 7 to 8 is my time just for myself, solitude and so on. And then of course, I love going into nature. Oftentimes, even if I'm in a group, a hiking group, I'll often find myself alone, a little bit detached from the group, where I'm totally alone in nature. Sometimes I'm so far behind the group or ahead that I don't see anybody. I'm just totally on my own. I've often gone walking up mountains totally on my own, and I need that sense of solitude. That's where empaths recharge their batteries. Empaths love adventure, freedom and travel. Empaths are free spirits. Totally, totally, totally. My liberty, my freedom, very, very, I hold it, I give it a very, very high value. It's very, very important to me. My freedom, traveling, adventure, that's what life's all about, man. Empaths find routine, rules or control imprisoning. Control, don't even speak to me about control. Nobody can control me, I'm telling you right now. Anything that takes away an empath's freedom is debilitating to an empath, even poisoning. I place a high value on my autonomy. My liberty is extremely important to me. I'm a strong supporter of free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of movement. I'm totally against propaganda, thought control, which leads to indoctrination of the masses. And it's actually happening right now as we speak. I would really encourage everybody that I know, and everybody watching this video, by the way, if you are watching this video, thank you very much. I really appreciate you, and I put a high value on you as well. But what I'd like to encourage you to do is read 1984 by George Orwell. And it seems like that could be playing out right before our very eyes in this present time. But I'm not going to go into detail about that. You think about it. Read the book and you think about it. Okay, empaths love nature and animals. I've already just touched on that earlier on. Being outdoors in nature is a must for empaths, and pets are an essential part of their life. Like people, animals can sense an empath's vibe and are drawn to them. I've been to some friends who have animals, dogs, that, I don't want to, once again, I don't want to make out as if I'm special. I'm not special. Empaths aren't more special than anybody else. I'm just telling you what can happen, and this looks like it's a fact. You can go and study it and read about it. But my one friend said to me, hey, her dog, I can't remember her name now, but doesn't go to people really. And then when I was there, this dog couldn't get enough of me. And I mean, I love dogs, I love animals. And this dog, when I get to know a dog and I start just petting them, I look really into their eyes and they look deeply into my eyes, and there's like a connection. It's quite amazing, a connection to animals. You know, so yeah. And love nature, man, love nature. I mean, I surf, although I don't really surf much anymore. I'm a bit of a Christmas surfer now. But the sea, the mountains, I mean, I don't think I could live away from the sea and the mountains. I mean, yeah. Okay, number 15, creative. Empaths are very creative, from singing, dancing, acting, drawing or writing. An empath will have a strong creative streak and a vivid imagination. I've got a very, very vivid imagination. Just ask my students, my photography students. I've got a very, very vivid imagination. Sometimes too vivid if you ask me. Yes, empaths are usually very, very creative people. Unfortunately, a lot of empaths, and I'm one of them, have an addictive personality. Alcohol, drugs, sex are to name but a few addictions that empaths turn to block out the emotions of others. It is a form of protection. I think one has to be very careful here, because one can't blame others for your choice to abuse drugs or alcohol. You know, NA and AA, Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, will tell you that the choice is purely yours to pick up, you know. But having said that, what Diane is saying here, empaths turn to drugs or sex, alcohol, as a way to block out emotions of others, a form of self-protection. What I think she could be meaning is that if you do you got an addictive personality, and now let's say you are sharing a space with somebody that can be quite abusive, and you're an empath and you're highly sensitive to vibes, vibrations, frequencies, moods of others, or that person that you're sharing your house with could be abusive, and well, you turn to alcohol or drugs to block it out as a form of self-protection. That can happen. That's why, you know, it's sometimes alcoholics and addicts can actually say, you know, I was driven to pick up drink by stress or other people. Stress can be abuse from other people. So in a way you're saying, if that situation didn't happen, that stressful situation with that person, I would not have picked up that drug or that drink. But one has to be very, very strong, because at the end of the day, no matter how much stress you're going through, it is still your choice to pick up that drug or that drink. Number 17, gets bored or distracted easily if not stimulated. Work, school and home life has to be kept interesting for an empath, or they switch off from it and end up daydreaming or doodling. Yes, true. Tick. 18, finds it impossible to do things they don't enjoy. Tick. Feels like they are living a lie by doing so. To force an empath to do something they dislike through guilt tripping or misplaced obligation, or labeling them as idle, will only serve in making them unhappy. It is for this reason many empaths get labeled as being lazy. No, we're not lazy. It's just difficult doing something you just really dislike. It makes it very difficult for empaths to be in the service industry. 19, abhors clutter. It makes an empath feel weighed down and blocks the flow of energy. Yes, no, I don't do clutter at all. Can't stand it. You know, my ex-wife was OCD. So the place was, geez, I'm not OCD, hey, but, you know, I'm quite tidy for a man, I think. You know, I think. But my ex-wife was OCD. She didn't think I was really tidy. I thought I was. Anyway, abhors clutter. Yes, we don't like clutter. Not at all. Empaths love to daydream. An empath can stare into space for hours in a world of their own and blissfully happy. Yes, I can do that. I can do that for a long time. I can think and ponder and daydream for a long time. I enjoy it. The ability to feel the days of the week. Yeah, very interesting. An empath will get the Friday feeling if they work Fridays or not. My students will tell you that on Friday I'm in a much better mood than on a Monday. Fridays they can ask me anything. I play music during class and it's all like super cool. Friday I'm like, nah, weekend time. Fridays they've got a good vibe. Fridays in my household has always been snack day for the weekend. So I sort of work by the 5-day, 2-day rule. Well, I'm not always that good at it. But for 5 days, no junk eating, no chocolate, soda, chips, crisps, anything like that. Supposed to be, I haven't been that good at it lately. And then 2 days, the weekend, it's like free for all, you know. And so yeah, the ability to feel the days of the week. They pick up on how the collective are feeling. It feels like for Fridays, like the world is smiling, calm and relaxed. Sunday evenings, Mondays and Tuesdays of a working week have a heavy feeling. Yeah, I can relate to that. Number 2, empaths will not choose to buy antiques, vintage or second-hand. Anything that's been pre-owned carries the energy of the previous owner. An empath will even prefer to have a brand new car or house if they're in a financial situation to do so with no residual energy attached to that house or car or clothing. Number 23, can appear moody, shy, aloof or disconnected. That is a big one, a huge one. I'm going to read that again. Number 23, can appear moody, shy, aloof or disconnected. Depending on how an empath is feeling will depend on what face they show to the world. They can be prone to mood swings, and if they're taken on too much negative, will appear quiet and unsociable, even miserable. An empath detests having to pretend to be happy when they're sad. This only adds to their load, makes working in the service industry when it's service with a smile very challenging. Yes, I can relate to that. 24, knowing. This is interesting. Empaths just know stuff without being told. It's a knowing that goes way beyond intuition or gut feelings. Even though that is how many would describe the knowing. The more attuned they are, the strongest this gift becomes. Yeah, I can relate to that too as well. You know, I've known things, I've just known things sometimes, you know. It's difficult to describe. But for instance, you know, I knew when my daughter was pregnant, long before she told me or there were signs that she was pregnant, you know. And there have been other instances as well. Yes, so if you can say yes to most or all of the above, then you are definitely an empath. Let me read a little bit, an article by Christelle Brudolo, a few extracts from her article called Traits of an Empath, which I also found very, very interesting. Some of it will be repeats of what I've just read out to you now from Diane Catherine. But Christelle Brudolo, she says this: empaths are often quiet achievers. They can take a while to handle a compliment, for they're more inclined to point out another's positive attributes. They are highly expressive in all areas of emotional connection and talk openly and at times quite frankly. Very frank. Empaths can be very frank people. They may have a few problems talking about their feelings if another cares to listen. Thank you so much for listening. However, they can be the exact opposite at times, reclusive and apparently unresponsive at the best of times. They may even appear ignorant. That's maybe because they just like quiet sometimes. Some are very good at blocking out, or they're blocking out others, and that's not always a bad thing. At least for the learning empath, struggling with a barrage of emotions from others as well as their own feelings. That's why most learning empaths struggle, because of this very thing. Picking up on the vibes and emotions of others, and also dealing with their own emotions. And sometimes there can be a conflict of those emotions, you see. That's why it's really a good idea to find out if you are an empath and learn how to handle this gift and handle yourself and your emotions. Empaths have a tendency to openly feel what is outside of them more so than what is inside of them. This can cause empaths to ignore their own needs. In general, an empath is non-violent, non-aggressive, and leans more towards being the peacemaker. Just as a side note, there's a difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. You'd rather, in my view, rather be a peacemaker than a peacekeeper. A peacekeeper can't deal with confrontation and will not resolve conflicts. They'll just want to keep the peace, not make the peace. A peacemaker, on the other hand, will rather talk it out and encourage people to deal with healthy confrontation so that the situation or the conflict is resolved, and making the way for peace. So you want to rather be a peacemaker than a peacekeeper. Any area filled with disharmony creates an uncomfortable feeling in an empath. If they find themselves in the middle of a confrontation, they will endeavor to settle the situation as quickly as possible, if not avoid it altogether. Yes, empaths are gentle souls actually, but you don't want to mess with an empath. You really don't want to F with an empath, I can tell you now, right? But they're actually gentle souls, but they're protectors as well. You see, so do you know love holds people accountable? That is something I'll do for another podcast. And love protects. Love protects. So if anybody is bullying your child or your grandchild or something, or anybody, if there's anything that's really unjust, you will find an empath will roar. An empath will know how to roar as well, but they are actually gentle souls. Where was I? They will endeavor to settle the situation as quickly as possible, if not avoid it altogether. If any harsh words are expressed in defending themselves, empaths, they will likely resent their lack of self-control and have a preference to peacefully resolve the problem quickly. Yes, very, very true of empaths. Empaths are more inclined to pick up another's feelings and project it back sometimes without even realizing its origin in the first place. So they're a bit like a mirror. Sometimes unknowingly, they're just mirroring back somebody else's feelings and emotions and vibes. They're just mirroring it back to them. Talking things out is a major factor in releasing emotions in the learning empath. Empaths can develop an even stronger degree of understanding so that they can find peace in most situations. The downside is that empaths may bottle up emotions and build barriers sky high so as to not let others know of their innermost thoughts and or feelings. Yes, I've been through that sometimes when, as an empath, you feel perhaps hurt, and then you can land up bottling up your emotions, and that leads to building up barriers really sky high, and you don't let anybody else get close to you to know your innermost thoughts and or feelings. And that for me is something that you know, you grow in all the time, and depending on the situation and the person you let into. If I let somebody into my world, to let them know my innermost thoughts and feelings, you must know that person's going to be very, very special, and I'll place a very, very high value on them. And I'm sure it's the same if somebody else lets me into their private world, their private universe. Reminds me of that song, I think it was by Crowded House, Private Universe. Yeah, what a beautiful song, eh? Your private universe. You know, when somebody invites you or allows you into your private universe, you better feel so very special, I'm telling you. The need to express oneself honestly is a form of healing and a choice open to all. To not do so can result in a breakdown of the person and result in mental, emotional instability or the creation of a physical ailment, illness or disease. Talking about if you bottle up your emotions. Yeah, not good. Empaths are very sensitive to TV, videos, movies, news and broadcasts. Violence or emotional dramas depicting shocking scenes of physical or emotional pain inflicted on adults or children or animals can bring empaths easily to tears. Yes, very true. I'd like to encourage you guys to watch a documentary called The Last of the Lions, but you know, you're going to need a tissue or two. I watched it, and boy, you know, it was really, I choked up, you know. It's an incredible, wonderful story about a pride of lions, particularly a mother lion, a female lion, Madita, and her story, and how she looks after her cubs and so on, and how she loses her mate, and so incredible story, The Last of the Lions, narrated by Jeremy Irons. Beautiful, but man, did I choke up. I remember, you know, from a very young age, I didn't realize, I was only in hindsight that I realized, I've been an empath for about 10 years. But when I remember being 5 and listening to a song, As Tears Go By Marian Faithfull, crying my eyes out. And I remember I lived with my mom and my 2 sisters in a little flat in Durban. And it was just my mom and I in that flat at that particular day, and she had the song and I was crying my eyes out. I was sitting there on the couch crying at 5. And she said, "What's wrong?" And I just said, this music is so incredibly sad. At 5 o'clock, at the age of 5, Marian Faithfull, As Tears Go By. I'll see if I can put a link to that song somewhere in this podcast. Geez, you know, I remember watching Grey's Anatomy. And really, when the scenes came on, or the operation, you know, scalpel and cutting into bodies, and oh man, I just like do that, eh? Wow, I can't watch that. Just too sensitive. I remember when I very first saw a nature wildlife documentary, I must have been about 10 or so, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. Beyond belief when I saw, you know, predators hunting down and killing and eating other animals. I just couldn't believe it. I got the shock of my life as well when I found out that lions practice infanticide, you know, when they go and destroy and eat, kill, maim another pride's cubs when they take over another pride. I mean, I was just shocked. So you'll find empaths have that sensitivity. At times they may feel physically ill or choke back the tears. Some empaths will struggle to comprehend any such cruelty and may have grave difficulty in expressing themselves in the face of another's ignorance, closed-mindedness, and obvious lack of compassion. Empaths simply cannot justify the suffering they feel and see. You will find empaths working with people, animals, or nature with a true passion and dedication to help them. They are often tireless teachers and or caretakers for our environment and all within it. Many volunteers are empathic and give up personal time to help others without pay and or recognition. Remember, without pay or recognition. Remember early on I was talking about virtue signaling and fake virtue. Don't be one of them. When you're an empath, it's just part of you. It's a natural outflow. Empaths may be excellent storytellers. Yes, I love telling stories. Just ask my students. Remind me to tell you the story of Mind Over Matter. It's one of my army stories I'd like to tell you in another podcast, Mind Over Matter. Empaths love to be storytellers, excellent storytellers, due to an endless imagination, inquisitive minds, and ever-expanding knowledge. I mean, I love research. I think I've told you that, and a variety of subjects, from art to spirituality to photography to politics to human behavior to the universe to wildlife, etc. Empaths can be old romantics at heart and very gentle. Yes, that's yes. Hands up. They may also be the keepers of ancestral knowledge and family history. If not the obvious family historians, they may be the one who listen to the stories passed down and possess the majority of the family history. My sisters are very good at that. Both my sisters are better at that than me. They know more of our family history than I do. Empaths have a broad interest in music to suit their many expressive temperaments, and others can query how empaths can listen to one style of music and within minutes change to something entirely different. Oh, that's very true. I can do that. I can chop and change from blues to like electronica to rock and so on. Lyrics within a song can have adverse, powerful effects on empaths. True, especially if it's relevant to a recent experience, like a breakup, I would guess. You know, I mean, that's happened to me a lot. I mean, you know, breakups, especially when you're really in love with someone, with a partner, and there's a breakup, and being a romantic, you know, I get drawn to music and the lyrics, and it's so kind of strange after a breakup how these songs come to you that are so meaningful for the actual moment that you're experiencing. It's another thing I'd like to talk about at some time, is how music and books, messages through music and books come to you at just the right time. Is it a coincidence or is it not? In these moments, it is advisable for empaths to listen to music without lyrics to avoid playing havoc with the emotions. You know, there's some music I just can't listen to, no matter what. I like death metal. I can't listen to no matter what. I just don't do death metal. I can't do it, man. It'll do my head in. And some rap music is very, very toxic. I'd like to, when I do my next podcast, I think the third podcast, I'm going to shine a light on toxic masculinity. And there is definitely a lot of rap that falls into that category, like, yo bitches, my bitch, come and do this for me, and I slap my bitch and all that. Toxic masculinity. And what I don't understand is that how some women actually listen to that kind of thing. You know, it's really, it's quite disgusting, a lot of it, you know. There is a lot of rap that I do enjoy. There's a band called Definition of Sound. It's like really intelligent rap, and Eminem has got some really good rap. Tom McDonald, I enjoy his stuff, political commentary, but when you get toxic rap, that's like they denigrating women, turning women into objects of sexual gratification, etc. I mean, that's not cool, really. Empaths are just as expressive with body language as with words, thoughts, and feelings. Their creativity is often expressed through dance, acting, and bodily movements. Empaths can project an incredible amount of energy portraying and or releasing emotion. with me, one of the greatest, I've heard that one of the greatest attributes of a teacher is to inspire their students. And I'd like to think I'm quite good at that, at inspiring my students. I often tell my students I've got more faith in them than they have in themselves. So when I teach, my teaching style is that I release a lot of emotion. I tell a lot of stories about my career as a photographer that relates to the lesson. And after a 4-hour session, I mean, I'm pretty drained because I've released a lot of emotion. That's the way I teach. Empaths can become lost in the music. Oh man, that is me. To the point of being in a trance-like state. Music, it's just incredible for me. I'm always I'm looking for music all the time on Spotify and YouTube, etc. I'm looking for music, new music all the time. Music touches me. It makes my spirit soar. It can make my soul sing. Music, it's like she says here, they become one with the music through the expression of their physical bodies. Being in a trance-like state, they describe this feeling as a time when all else within them is almost non-existent. Yeah, that's me. People of all walks of life and animals are attracted to the warmth and genuine compassion of empaths. Regardless of whether others are aware of one being empathic, people are drawn to them as a metal object is to a magnet. Even complete strangers find it easy to talk to empaths about the most personal things. Yes. And before they know it, they have poured out their hearts and souls without intending to do so consciously. It is as though on a subconscious level the person knows instinctively that empaths would listen with compassionate understanding. Then again, for empaths, it is always nice to actually be heard themselves as well. Here are the listeners of life. They can be outgoing, bubbly, enthusiastic, and a joy to be in the presence of, as well as highly humorous. Yeah, empaths, a lot of them have got a really, I think, a good sense of humor, great sense of humor. They can be highly humorous at the most unusual moments. On the flip side, empaths can be way down with mood swings that will have others around them want to jump overboard and abandon ship. Pretty intense. Yeah, empaths can be pretty intense that way as well. The thoughts and feelings empaths receive from any and all their life can be so overwhelming if not understood. You see, that's why I say it's a good idea to test yourself and find out if you are an empath, because what you could be experiencing in terms of confusion, when you get to understand that you're actually an empath and start learning how to block out others' emotions from affecting you adversely, you're in a much better place and you'll lead a much happier, joyful life. And you will start plugging into what it means to be a blessing as an empath. That their moods can fluctuate with lightning speed. One moment they may be delightfully happy and with a flick of a switch miserable. Abandoning an empath in the throes of alternating moods can create detrimental effects. A simple return of empathic love. Just give them a hug. Listening and caring compassionately without bias, judgment and or condemnation can go an incredibly long way to an empath's instant recovery. And that's very interesting, an instant recovery. It's amazing because it's difficult to explain, but you'll find when an empath is down like that, they just need somebody to give them that bit of a hug or show them a bit of understanding, and they almost have an instant recovery. Many empaths don't understand what is occurring within them. They literally have no idea that another person's emotions are now felt as one's own and reflected outwardly. They are confused as to how one moment all was well and then the very next they feel depressed or alone, etc. The need to understand the possibilities of empath connection is a vital part of the empath journey for themselves and for those around them. Empaths are often problem solvers, thinkers and studiers of many things. Yes, tick. As far as empaths are concerned, where a problem is, so too is the answer. They often will search until they find one, an answer, if only for peace of mind. Sometimes I do that. I just need to find something out, or else it's going to bug me for the rest of the day until I find it out. This can certainly prove beneficial for others in their relationships, in the workplace, or on the home front. Where there is a will, there is a way, and an empath will find it. The empath can literally, likely without the knowledge of what's actually occurring, tap into universal knowledge, the spirit realm, and be receptive to guidance in solving anything they put their head and hearts into. Very interesting. Empaths are often vivid or lucid dreamers. They can dream in detail, another topic for a future podcast, and are inquisitive of dream content. I got into dream analysis quite a few years ago, and I touch on it every now and again still. Often they feel as though the dreams are linked to their physical life somehow, and not just a mumble of nonsensical, irrelevant, meaningless images. This curiosity will lead many empathic dreamers to unravel some of the mysterious dream contents from an early age and connect the interpretation to its relevant in their physical life. If not, they may be led to dream interpretations through other means. Very, very true. I have said before in my first podcast, I will do a podcast of some of my dreams and some of the interpretations of my dreams. Empaths are daydreamers with difficulty keeping focused on the mundane. We're not so good with the mundane. If life isn't stimulating off, an empath will go into a detached state of mind. They will go somewhere, anywhere, in a thought that appears detached from the physical reality, yet is alive and active, for they really are away and experiencing their thoughts. If a tutor is lecturing with little to no emotional input, empaths will not be receptive to such teaching and can unintentionally drift into a state of daydreaming. I'm like that. You've got to hold my attention. You've got to captivate me. A movie, a book, a piece of music, it's got to captivate me. When I do some YouTube research and I see the lecturers on YouTube and they speak like this all the way through the whole 1 hour tutorial on YouTube, just like this, and they waffle and they take time to get to their points, and they got no intonation, they don't speak with their hands, they don't use humor, there's no eye contact. It's just, oh no, you've totally lost me. A tutor has to captivate me and hold my attention. Give the empath student the tutor who speaks with stimuli and emotion through actual experience of any given subject. Whenever students are registering or applying to register with my School of Photography, and we have our chat, sometimes it's a long chat, an hour or more with either them or them and their parents, I will say to them, listen, go check out other lecturers, photography lecturers, and specifically look at their portfolio. And also see how much experience they've got. A lot of people that are teaching or teachers, and they don't even have experience. They can't even tell a story. They've got no depth. So somebody who's going to be my tutor needs to have experience and depth. We're not into what is called cognitive dumping. Cognitive dumping is just like giving you knowledge. Whereas teaching with emotion and stimuli it's like almost like an impartation. So that is what empaths need. Then we will be receptively alert. Empaths are a captivated audience, if that is the case, if they're taught by somebody like that. The same principle applies in acting. An actor will either captivate the audience through expressing in all aspects, expressing emotions as though they really did experience the role they are portraying, or they will lose them entirely. Empaths make outstanding actors. Empaths frequently experience déjà vu and synchronicities. Yes, I like. What may initially start as, oh, what a coincidence, will lead to the understanding of synchronicities and an aspect of who they are. These synchronicities will become a welcomed and continually expanding occurrence. As an understanding of self grows, the synchronicities become more fluent and free-flowing. The synchronicities can promote a feeling of euphoria as empaths identify with them and appreciate the connection to their empathic nature. This is what one of my recently favorite authors, Paulo Coelho, describes as omens or signs in many of his books. Let me tell you very quickly just one or two that I can recall off the top of my head. For example, books come to me at a certain time just when I need them, and I don't always believe it's a coincidence, you know. For example, you know, when I was in Australia on a holiday with my sister, I had a wonderful time there. My sister treated me to a holiday in Australia. Bless her. How's it, Marion? Love ya. And she treated me to a wonderful holiday, all expenses paid in Australia, and we had the most wonderful time of my life there with my sister Marion. And we used to go to a little pub called the Moon and Sixpence in Perth. In any event, I came back to South Africa, and I used to tell my buddies and show them photos of us at the Moon and Sixpence and so on. And my one buddy, David Hound Dog Livens, he was at a bookstore once, and it was like at a market, right? And he found a book there called The Moon and Sixpence by W. Somerset Maugham. And he bought it and he gifted me this book. A lot of books have been gifted to me, and I need to read them just at the right time. And so he said, hey Steve, look what I found, The Moon and Sixpence. And he gave me the book, and I read it, and it was what I really needed to hear right at that time. There was another time, I remember listening to a prophetic word on winds of change. This is going back a few years back, about the winds of change. And the very next day I went for a run, and I was coming back. I'm a long distance runner, and I was coming back across the bridge near my house, and as I was running over the bridge over a little river, a car drove past me, and on the side, emblazoned on the side, was the words "time for change." So those kind of things happen often to me. I remember as well, one more thing I can tell you is this. I remember praying for something very personal the one night, and I was praying for a sign, which I don't do often, you know, but I was praying for a sign. And the very next day, my wife at the time and a few of us friends, we went walking up the river, which is close to my house. And as we were coming back, we're coming back to the gate. I'm going to put a photograph up on this podcast of the actual gate, and right by the gate towards my house, the property, the garden, there was, and I'm on 7 Drake Street. I've got this relationship with the number 7. I see a lot of repeating numbers. I'm sure many of you can identify with that. Lately I've been seeing 444s often, but that's a story for another day. But I've had a relationship with the number 7 for many years, 15 years or more probably. And I say to people, I didn't choose 7, 7 chose me. It's not something that happens consciously, it's something that just happens. It's a natural progression. When I first moved into down here in the Cape, we stayed at number 7 block of the name of flats. I'll think of it just now. On the 7th floor, 701. Then I moved into this property. It's number 7 Drake Street, where I started Studio 7. Studio 7 Photography. You can go and check out my website. I'll leave the link in this podcast. And then I went through many years where I'd see 7 all the time, go till slips, buy something, it was 77 Rand, 77 cents, etc. I can't even tell you, I've collected a lot of slips and so on. In any event, I was praying for a sign, and the very next day I got back, we went for a walk with my ex-wife and a few of our friends, and we were coming back to the gate in the garden, and right there in the leaves was the number 7 on an Uno card. I've still got it over here. This Uno card, number 7. And it was right there in front of my gate, and I got to the gate first, and we never go through the pedestrian gate, we always go through the gate. We're always in and out with a car, so we would go in through that gate, and not the pedestrian gate, the smaller little gate in front of our garden. I hardly ever go through there, and this particular day I did. And so what are the chances that number 7 and red is also a color that, it's my favorite color, and number 7, like I say, I've got a relationship with the number 7. So those kind of things can happen, synchronicities, deja vu, that type of thing happens quite a bit. And I think I'll dedicate a podcast, a whole podcast just to that, what Paulo Coelho calls omens or signs, So yes, that happens a lot. For some empaths, the lack of outside understanding towards paranormal events they experience may lead to suppressing such abilities. Most of these abilities are very natural and not a coincidence. One of my friends, Richard, one of his friends wrote a book called in Afrikaans. Here in South Africa we also speak Afrikaans, and Richard's friend wrote a book called Toevallig. Now toevallig in Afrikaans means a coincidence, but if you separate the word into 3, toevallig, if you translate that into English directly, it means then light fell. So it's almost like, was it a coincidence or chance, or was it a sign or a synchronicity, or what it could be called an omen? Not a scary kind of omens, it's like a sign. So very interesting. Toevallig, I haven't read the book, but it's 5 stories of that could have been, are they coincidences or not coincidences? Or is there something behind whatever happened? A greater force that could be leading you in a certain direction, or that is giving you favor, or showing you the way, or illuminating your path. If you are aware enough, or alert enough, or self-aware enough, or alert enough, or aware enough to the spiritual realm, you could be able to recognize these signs and synchronicities that happen. Empaths may need to follow interests in the paranormal and the unexplained with curiosity, so as to explain and accept their life circumstances. So there we are, my friends. That is quite a bit of the research that I have done on what it means to be an empath. I am an empath. It's taken me a long time to understand this and get to grips with it, and to walk in this gifting. Like I say, I'm going to reiterate, it doesn't make me or any other empath more special than anybody else walking on the face of the earth. Many other people have incredible giftings that I don't know or understand or can't relate to at all. So after watching all of this, ask yourself, are you an empath? Can you relate to any of these points that I have brought up? If you can relate to most of them, the chances are that you might be an empath yourself. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Until next time, next week, I think I'm really going to tackle the subject of toxic masculinity. It's also going to be probably another hour-long podcast. There's a lot to unpack in that as well. But until next time, see ya and keep shining your light.